Welcome to 15 Minutes of Mental Toughness with your host, Dr. DRROBBELL. Dr. Rob interviews expert coaches, executives, and athletes about mental toughness and their Hinge moments. The Hinge. It connects who we are with who we become, and it only takes one. And now for your host, Dr. Rob.
Do every week. But what I learned about myself was, even though I was this, pretty high level athlete and could push myself really hard, there would always be some sort of point where I could push myself in that workout to where there was a version of myself that I didn't like. The person who was telling me to slow down or to, call it quits or to cut it short, like all those things I'm mentioning, it's just not being as tough as you might think that you are. And that I would always, it didn't start this way. It was kind of painful at first, but I would get to that point to where kind of my subconscious would start talking, or whatever you want to call it, trying to get me to slow down or quit. And I actually started to get happy. I would smile in the workout when that part would come. I'd be like, all right.
This podcast, 15 Minutes of Mental Toughness, is brought to you by our sponsor, SOS Rehydrate. It's an organic drink mix as effective as an IV drip. It's proven by science and used by elite athletes, because only the best will do for elite athletic performance. So for all your hydration needs, our listeners today get 15% off if you enter the code Mental Toughness at ineedsos.com. So I am particularly fond of this guest today. This is founder and CEO of End of 3 Fitness, EO3. Is former fitness program manager of Air Force Special Ops Command. He's written Garage Gym Athlete. It's a fantastic book. His podcast is End of 3 Fitness, Better Humanology. Also a fantastic podcast. EO3 Fitness, they help coaches develop well-rounded coaches and athletes. Their mission is pretty simple. It's just not easy, but it's building better humans. My guest has completed a marathon. I wouldn't say with no training, but I'd say with 1 day notice, because I was always in shape. Completed a Murph workout every week for an entire year. So it's 52, an entire year, which we'll talk about today. Has developed a harder to kill program, and one of my favorite type of programming, and that's Meet Yourself Saturdays. Really fond of this guest. Look forward to this interview. This is Jerred Moon. Jerred, thanks for joining us, man.
Dr. Bell, it's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you, man. I'm really excited to be here today.
Nice. Let's get into it. What is mental toughness?
It's something I've been trying to develop more of a definition to over the years, and it's definitely changed. There are the micro moments where you can push yourself with something as small as a cold shower or a discipline of the day. But what I'm really starting to lean more towards of mental toughness being is, daily discipline over decades is really what mental toughness is to me, because I feel like some people can be forced into situations in which they get through and they have the grit, or they find out they have the grit, but the real way to build that resolve, I think, is daily discipline over decades.
That's daily discipline over decades. Could you go ahead and elaborate then? Like, what's daily discipline that we need to have to become, better humans?
I mean, so going to the better human category, really anything that can improve you. I mean, is waking up early the keystone habit that's going to improve you? Well, doing 12 weeks of it might make a difference, but what if you did it for 12 years? What kind of person would you be at the end of that? So it could be something like waking up, having a morning routine, doing a cold shower every morning. It could be fitness, could be reading. Really, there are a lot of different things that make you better, but I feel like they pay very little dividends in short spurts, and I feel like that's where a lot of people go when they're trying to develop new habits or get more mentally tough. Is it's too short-lived. Everyone has a story about how they were really fit once, right? Like back in this time or whatever. And granted, there are actual physiological things as you age that can take your VO2 max and fitness level down lower, but still, like, there's always this story about, I was really into it at this one point, but it's like, well, what happened? Like, why'd you stop? And I think mental toughness, anything that makes you better, applying that on a daily basis. So any sort of hard thing that you can do every single day, practice over a decade or longer, is really what's going to build the type of mental toughness that is just bulletproof.
Nice. I love that, man. Bulletproof mental toughness. One of my favorite things that you have is Meet Yourself Saturdays. You come up with these workouts that we should do. I think you really delve into your creativity there. Can you share a little bit about, like, what was the mission of that in terms of developing Meet Yourself Saturdays?
Yeah, so we have like a couple thousand athletes on our rosters these days, and 4 days out of the week we're doing the science. We are energy system training, strength training, every principle thing that we know works, we make it work, and we make sure our athletes are doing it. But on Saturday, once per week, we kind of throw that playbook out the window, and we focus on the part of the athlete that can't really be trained by focusing on anything that's in a textbook, and that is mental toughness. So we put together these workouts that are not just hard because the intensity level has to be high. It's normally something that's just going to make you uncomfortable, make you want to quit, make you think the workout's stupid, something like that. And that's right where we want athletes, because now they're having to deal with themselves, and most of these workouts will make sure that you get a lot of that internal chatter going on, and that's where the Meet Yourself portion comes to it. So once that internal chatter happens of, I'm going to quit, or I'm going to cut this one short, that's the person I want you to meet, talk to, address, and try and fix. And the only way that you can make that side of yourself better is to go there, meet yourself, and change the conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why, I get along with you so well, because I think we meet ourselves in like daily situations, especially when there's adversity and we have that inner chatter. And I guess it's just how we overcome it. What have you discovered about yourself in that inner chatter?
There's you mentioned doing that Murph every Saturday for a year, and that's actually how Meet Yourself Saturday started, because I realized how beneficial doing that Murph workout was every single week, and then I wanted to bring that to my athletes, but not have everyone do Murph, because the workout is very challenging and it's not something I think everyone should do every week. But what I learned about myself was, even though I was this pretty high-level athlete and could push myself really hard, there would always be some sort of point where I could push myself in that workout to where there was a version of myself that I didn't like. The person who was telling me to slow down, or to call it quits, or to cut it short, like all those things I'm mentioning, like it's just not being as tough as you might think that you are. And that I would always, it didn't start this way, it was kind of painful at first, but I would get to that point to where kind of my subconscious would start talking, or whatever you want to call it, trying to get me to slow down or quit. And I actually started to get happy. I would smile in the workout when that part would come. I'd be like, all right, it took me 27 minutes of absolute 100% intensity, but here you are, and now I'm going to tell you to shut up, basically. And it takes a lot of time to break into that barrier, especially the higher your fitness level is, but get to meet that person, and I got to find out what it takes to push myself beyond it. And I think it overlays into a lot of other aspects in your life.
And then lay that out for us exactly, so people aren't aware what the Murph workout is.
Yeah, so the Murph workout is in memory of Lieutenant Michael P. Murphy, who died in Afghanistan. It's a memorial workout, and he used to do this workout. He called it body armor. So you run 1 mile, you do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then you run another mile. And if you have some body armor, you should be wearing it. So 20-pound vest typically is what I would wear during the workout.
Nice. And you came up with the system that I've adopted and always share with people that are doing it. What's the best way to do that workout?
Yeah, so you can partition the workout. The best way to do it is go as fast as you really can on the miles, is my best advice these days, but it's going to be partitioning it into 20 rounds of 5, 10, 15, so 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 squats. And then if you want to really get fast, never slow down on the squats.
Yeah. And so you meet yourself, and then you develop the technique of then just being able to smile and kind of shut off that negative voice. How does that apply then And how have you figured that doing that for a year, how has that applied into like just regular life and then with all the workouts even that you do now?
Yeah, so what Steven Pressfield's book, The War of Art, he talks about resistance. And resistance is a really big deal, and it's a real thing. It's generally when you're moving in the direction of something you should be doing, you're going to feel pushback, some sort of resistance, whether it's doing your taxes on time, or doing the work you should be doing to move your business forward, or doing the workout that that you should be doing. There's going to be resistance against you, reasons you shouldn't do it. That's just part of human nature. And I think a lot of people don't realize or understand, or should I say recognize. People don't recognize resistance. They think that that's them. They think that I don't want to do my taxes because my taxes suck. That's why I don't want to do my taxes. And that might be true to some degree, but if you were to just get it done as fast as you could and you're done with it, you would feel relieved. You wouldn't have to procrastinate. You wouldn't have to be stressed about it. Now, this is true across everything in your life, but I think being able to recognize resistance and realize that's not you. That is just something that happens when you are supposed to be doing what you should be doing. People think that they maybe want to be lazy. They want to be watching TV. They don't want to be working out. And that's not really true. You're giving into resistance, and most people don't recognize it. So once you can start to recognize resistance and say, no, I'm going to go head first against the resistance, is really when you're going to start to see progress in every area of your life. And it really doesn't matter what it is. Like I said, it could go business, getting simple tasks done, starting habits, fitness. It really goes into place everywhere.
There was a football coach here, Dick Doulahan, that said mental toughness is doing what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
It sounds exactly like that, but I think I love the way you articulated that piece, man, about the resistance. That's fantastic. I
just think that I think that's a really good way to put it, is mental toughness is doing what you don't want to do. But I think sometimes it could be doing what you want to do harder, I guess. Because you might have a desire to do things, but there could be something else slowing you down. And so recognizing those things, because we all want to do things that are good for ourselves, right? Like we eat somewhere, we want that, somewhere we desire that. But it's the little things that really push us from doing it, getting it done.
Yeah. We always talk about, and I believe that we all have these hinge moments that happen in our life that connect who we are with who we become. What was a hinge moment that happened in yours?
I think a big hinge moment for me was, because it was just a few years ago. For me, it was becoming a full-time entrepreneur. That's not necessarily something in the fitness scene or coaching or me as an athlete. So it might be a little bit of a different answer, but it was just a huge decision for me. I was coming off of active duty as a military officer, had 2 kids, married, and everything was taken care of for me in the military. Health insurance, good paycheck. There was really no reason to risk it all. And I did, and then I decided to go full-time entrepreneur, but then I got a little bit scared as soon as I got out, and so I took a job immediately post-military for a very short amount of time. It was short-lived, and this is kind of what brings me to the hinge moment. Was I was working for this person, and they had no real leadership skills. I wasn't getting paid that much, and I just felt so much more experienced than them. And then it just came down to the realizing that I had trained to be a leader my whole life as a military officer. Like they train you, test you on it in all of your training going through. Then I was a military officer, constantly leading people. And then I realized that I had taken leadership off the table for myself. And I was no longer being a leader in my family. I wasn't being a leader in that business. I wasn't being a leader in my decisions. And that was the big hinge moment for me, was realizing you need to step up and lead. There's nothing that's going to be easy about this, not a single second, probably for the rest of your life. but you need to choose the path of leadership. And I did. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm going full. I got to do this for my family. I got to take the shot. I got to take the risk and not keep going back to trying to be comfortable. I need to get outside of my comfort zone, and I need to lead. And so that was a big hinge moment for me and my family, was really deciding to be a leader.
Yeah. And so on that path, which I love as well, I mean, obviously mine was different, but being an entrepreneur is definitely a risk. I mean, what has been the resistance that you face, on a constant basis?
As an entrepreneur?
Yeah. In the leadership.
So as an entrepreneur. Oh, in leadership as an entrepreneur. So you can lead in two different ways, I believe, in entrepreneur. You can lead your team, which is a little bit more straightforward and, being a manager / leader. But I think leading yourself is probably the harder part in entrepreneurship, because you have to, the resistance that you have to come across is like, you could probably get your business to a certain point where it's comfortable and you're paying the bills, and you could easily get complacent if things are going well. When things aren't going well, I feel like it's easy to just push, drive, like we have to do this, my family has to eat, and we definitely started there. But there have been times where it's just like I'm kind of comfortable and complacent. But when I get comfortable and complacent, I'm missing out on opportunities for my family, for my employees, for myself. And so trying to constantly be proactive and driving forward and leading myself, I feel like is a bigger challenge than leading other people or the people who benefit from your business and things like that.
Yeah. Being able to push yourself and constantly get better, but the complacency sets in, so people get comfortable. Is that what you've experienced? I mean, does that become, when mental toughness even becomes harder? Because like you said, I mean, when people are climbing, yeah, that determination, that grit is really evident. But when we do get comfortable, do you see that a lot with the athletes and even the coaches and people you work with?
All the time. And because I feel like I'm constantly talking to two different types of athlete. I'm talking to the athlete who needs to get started, and they're the person who hasn't quite started that drive. They haven't quite started that climb. And I need to sell to them all the reasons they need to be doing this, for their family, so on and so forth. And now getting those people started is not entirely challenging, because that they need to. Now, going to your complacency piece, the other type of athlete I'm talking to is an athlete who has gotten to a certain level, and they don't realize it anymore, but they're not pushing themselves very much harder, because all their friends and family around them are not as fit as they are, and they don't really have a community of athletes that could just destroy them in the gym. They don't see that, because they're pretty high up there. Yeah. They're the top of the totem pole in their little world. And what I try to show them is, you have a lot more to go. Like, you can push yourself a lot harder. A lot of people probably only ever get to like 60% of their potential, and that would be a phenomenal athlete in most people's eyes. And I like to take those people and push them even harder and make them realize you can go harder, you can push it more, you're not trying your hardest right here. And that is a lot of times a mental shift, because people don't understand that they don't even realize they've been complacent, because they might have such a high level of fitness, but they're just complacent. They're not pushing themselves as hard as they could.
Yeah. One of the things that you talk about that I really like is being able to challenge yourself for a year on improving one part of your life. Because I think we both see it. It's like, we're going to increase the diet and then work out, and then communication skills and leadership, and I'm going to take this class, and there's just so many things that we kind of lift up. Is that the best way to approach mental toughness? Is picking one thing?
I really think so, especially if you haven't proven to yourself that you're capable of doing something for a year. I challenge anyone when I have a conversation with them as an athlete. I ask them what's one daily discipline they've done for 365 days. I very rarely have an answer to that question, because most people even admit to skipping brushing their teeth. So I'm like, okay, so why do you think that you could do anything else for a year? Like, when have you ever proven that to yourself? And once they realize that it's a lot harder than they may think, that's when we start working. And it can be small. I'm talking real small. What's something you can do every day for a year? Could it be journaling at least a sentence per day without skipping for a year? Try that. It's so much harder than you think, so much harder than you realize. You'll come up with excuses. Life got busy. No, you got to push through that. you push through that for a year, you're going to be a different person who can take on any challenge at the end of that year. You can take on any habit, new discipline, anything you want, but you have to prove to yourself that you can even do it in the first place.
So is one of them being able to take cold showers for a year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one, the reason I like cold showers so much is because most people are going to take a shower today anyway, and most every day. And so what's the excuse for not doing it? You know, I'm not asking you to change up your routine. I'm asking you, at least at the end of your shower, turn that knob to cold, sit there for a little while, and then get out. You know, that will build mental toughness from an actual, like, can you stay in cold water, but also a daily discipline standpoint of, can you do it every day? Can you do it in the winter? Can you do it, you know, all the time?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a really fun one.
And so with the cold shower piece, so we don't need to take the whole shower that's cold. We just have to have a section of it. Like, do you recommend a minute? Is it 30 seconds? What do you recommend there?
Yeah, so I recommend everyone starting wherever they can. So for people getting started, take a full-on hot shower, and then 30 seconds as cold as you can go at the end. But I would, if you want to get more into like the physiological benefits and go really deep on the psychological, then my recommendation is going to be to work up to 3 minutes of cold. So 3 full minutes of cold shower. Now the ultimate mental toughness test, in my opinion, in the cold shower world, is to start it on cold and just get in it. That's because switching from hot to cold, it's a little bit easier to ease yourself into that.
Sure.
If you can just go from dry body to freezing cold water and stay in it for several minutes, like, okay, it may be time for a new challenge for you because that one's too easy now.
Yeah, you know, it's fantastic about that because, number one, it's not going to kill us. Like, I guarantee it, right? It's not going to kill us. It's just uncomfortable, and, you know, usually we associate shower with something that's going to be relaxing. You know, I remember I was at a PGA Tour event. They had a big storm that came through, and there was no hot water. Like, there was no power. And so we had to take cold showers like that entire week. And it's like those experiences you remember, but there's something righteous in that piece about, look, when your only option is you have to do it, there's no excuses for us. We just do it.
Yeah, and you have there's no excuse to not do one, really. Like, you know, you can, like I said, you're already taking a shower anyway. Might as well turn a daily practice into something that can make you better.
Nice. I always like that one too, because where do our thoughts go? You know, are we just thinking about the end, or do we really like try to enjoy that cold shower and think about how we're getting better from it? Just seems like there's a lot of different things we can do there.
Yeah, I would challenge yourself. That's because it is a meet yourself in a way there. You know, you're going to cold, and it's the comfortable side of your brain, or the part that wants to be comfortable and not in pain, is going to give you every excuse known to man on why you shouldn't be doing it, and why you should just cut the time short, all that stuff. And again, going back to that Murph, like, can you change the conversation? If you can, congratulations, you just had a mental toughness win for the day. If you can't change the conversation, try again tomorrow.
Yeah, that's great, man. You know, on that piece, and I want to ask you what we need to know moving forward. On that piece, someone misses a workout, someone misses journaling that day, and then they have that feeling of, you know, I'm a failure. Like, see, I couldn't even do that. And the one thing, I don't know if you've experienced this, but it seems like, you know, once that bad thing happens, it seems we can throw up our hands a lot of times and be like, see, I couldn't do it, screw it, I blew it. And now I'm going to go ahead, and since I ate that piece of cake, I'm going to eat the whole damn cake, because what's the problem, right? It's like, how do we overcome that piece when it comes to, you know, becoming a better human?
I think part of that, and I deal with this all the time, is just, we call it the all or nothing mentality, and I have no idea how it got ingrained into fitness, health, diet. I think those are things people don't typically want to do anyway, with, you know, just any sort of new habit. And so they get an excuse by failing one time, and then they give the whole thing up. But my question to people when that happens is, where else in your life would that ever work out? If you were late for work, would you say, screw it, I was late, I quit? Sorry, boss, I am not perfect. Quit the job. Or if you're married, if you were to be like, have you ever maybe disappointed or let down your husband or wife? Ever once in your entire marriage? Did it happen? Was your immediate response after, you know what? Divorce, we can't do this anymore. I made a mistake. Or with your kids, make a mistake being a father or a mother. Would you give them up for adoption because you made one little mistake? The answer to all those are absolutely going to be no. So why would it be any different when you're trying to do a simple daily discipline habit like journaling or fitness? You miss it once. No, it's not the end of the world. You need to get back on track and just keep going to the best of your ability.
Yeah. If we're driving to Charlotte, we get a flat tire, we're not going to turn around and head home. We just change the tire and keep going.
Exactly. Yeah. You just got to realize that mentality is, to be honest, I don't know where it came from, but you got to kill it. You got to kill it.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting, because I always say like mental toughness is not all or nothing. If we have that all or nothing, then we think of it in terms of winning and losing.
Yeah. It'll destroy you if you have that mentality about anything. So,
in terms of being able to ask that question, which I think is fantastic, what else can we do mentally? I mean, if somebody's listening here, and they've made a couple mistakes, and then they just haven't been able to get back to it, what do you recommend? What's the mental shift that they need to do?
Well, sometimes, so mental shift, like in perspective, I would say it is dropping the all or nothing mentality, but it could actually, I don't normally always recommend this, but could actually be lowering your standard a little bit. Because doing something every day, I don't care what it is other than breathing, like doing something every day for 365 days is challenging. It doesn't matter what it is. And so maybe that's too aggressive. Maybe it's like when I did the Murph, I didn't do it every day. I did it every Saturday for a year. So maybe it's something you could do once a week. Like you kind of have to find out where your mental tolerance level is and then set that as your goal. Because if you keep saying, I'm going to journal every day for a year, and you reset that clock every time you don't do it, okay, maybe that's too challenging. Maybe your mental toughness level is not there. Maybe you need to do something more on a weekly basis, or maybe the task needs to be smaller, and just readjust. You need to set your frame of mind where you can get a quick win. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Dave Ramsey, but my wife and I, we were in debt, a lot of debt a long time ago, and we paid off all that debt. But one of the principles he has in paying off that debt was it would make more sense from a financial standpoint to pay off the highest balance first. Get that down because it's going to have the most interest added to it over time. But what he says is to shift your mindset, and you're going to pay off the lowest balance first because that's going to be a quick win. Mentally, you're going to be like, yeah, paid that one off. Now let's do the next one. So that's kind of my same recommendation, is change your mental toughness challenge to something you're going to be able to do. Maybe it's not every day for a year. Maybe you just need to be consistent for 7 days. Get that win, set a new goal, and move forward.
Yeah. Man, I love that, man. Because I think we got to be in situations in life where we at least do have those small wins.
Yeah, you have to. You absolutely have to have some small wins. Something to celebrate. And celebrate it, too. Don't ever think that that comparison thing happens a lot in athletes all the time. I'll talk to them because we have leaderboards. People can see what other people do, and they're like, yeah, I ran that 8-minute mile. It's like, well, but, Joseph over there, he can run it in 5:30. I'm like, you just ran the fastest mile of your entire life. That's a win. You celebrate. You don't care if someone can run it 2.5 minutes faster than you.
Yeah.
Like, you celebrate. That's your win. Don't let anybody else take that away from you.
And then how do you recommend that to people? How do you coach people on that to be able to celebrate their wins? What should they do?
Well, it starts with setting a goal. So if you set some sort of a goal, or you want some sort of standard, like in our training, like if you hit a certain standard or level that you were shooting for, that's all you need is the goal. And then is to never, it happens to me too as a entrepreneur and type A driven person. Like, I can set business goals, fitness goals, I can achieve them, and I'm immediately not happy.
On to the next thing.
I'm like,
yep.
Yeah, like, let's just keep moving forward. And to be honest, that can get a dangerous trap as years go on. You just feel like you're never succeeding when you are. So set a goal. Once you have that goal written down somewhere, once you hit it, there's a celebration. I don't care if it's an actual party or maybe you buy yourself something. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. There just needs to be some celebration when a goal is met. It's going to make you feel a lot better about it and get you more excited to set more goals in the future.
Do you think like they should already have that idea of when I hit this goal, this is how I'm going to celebrate? Do you recommend that?
Absolutely. I think that could just be part of writing down your goal. You like if I run a 7-minute, when I run a 7-minute mile in 12 weeks, I will buy myself a new bike. I don't know what people want these days, or it could be buy, or I will throw like that. That's what my family does a lot of the times is we'll just celebrate with something like, going out to eat with a bunch of family members or something like that. Kind of small celebrations or experiences is what I'm more into. So whatever gets you fired up, like do that, celebrate and have fun with it.
Yeah. We could probably keep on going for hours, man, because I love talking with you. How do we get out of that comparison trap? Because it's just so easy to do. I mean, it's the same thing as the all or nothing mentality, but how do we get out of that?
That's a really, really difficult one, to not be comparing yourself constantly in every form of your life, right? You could do it financially, you could do it physically, you could do it emotionally, spiritually. There's always someone better than you. But I think a big part of getting out of that comparison trap is setting your own goals and benchmarks and then just playing your own game. Like, I know for a fact that there are fitness businesses out there that are growing faster, doing more, have more athletes than me right now. And that used to kind of get me down. Like, why am I not the best? Why am I not number one right now? But I set my quarterly goals, my benchmarks, same in fitness. I set these goals and these benchmarks on 12-week increments. If I'm charting the right course, hitting the goals that I said I was going to be happy with, then I just play my own game. And I just try and block everyone else out. And that's the best best advice I can give you is having goals and benchmark. But the second thing that I recommend, and I actually got this from the book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, and I forgot the author. But anytime that person or thing comes into your mind for comparison, don't sit there and dwell on it. Immediately, wish the best for that person.
Yeah.
Like say you were a fitness competitor of mine, and I was like, man, Bell is always crushing me on these runs, and it's just like I always try to run faster, and he's always running faster than me. Immediately, when I have that thought, I need to be like, you know what? I just hope that Dr. Bell has the best run of his life today, and that he stays injury free. And I really wish him the best. Try it. Just try it one time. When that comparison comes out, you'll be amazed at what the outcome is.
It's a fantastic one, because I always say true success is being able to root for everybody. And people are like, well, what do you mean? I want to root for them. And I kind of bring it back. It's like, look, you don't want to beat people on their worst day, because then it's like, I wasn't at my best. You want to beat people at their best. So you want people to do their best. You just want to see how good you can do. But I love that. I love that, because I think it's developing just that whole positive attitude towards others and yourself.
Yeah, it really. I read that in a book, I think a year or two ago, and I've been practicing as much as I can every time that comes up, and it's helped me a ton. Yeah,
I'll remember that next time that I'm struggling on the erg when I'm doing one of the Meet Yourself Saturdays, man. I'll just try smiling at it, and then man, I know Jerred's having a good workout. I can keep going. Hey, what is one thing that we need to know, that we need to apply? And I know we've talked about a lot of them, but what's one thing that we need to do in order to get mentally tough or to become better humans? What do you recommend?
I'll give you this piece of advice, and if you don't like it, tell me to ask me for another one, and I can change it or give you some more. But a lot of times it's a simple thing, but I ask everyone to try harder. This started with my kids. They couldn't do something, and I wouldn't really help them. I would just say, well, how about you try harder? And it got more serious the more I've developed this idea, the more I've actually used it with athletes and people in my life and my family. I don't want to beat anybody up, and I'm not saying what you're doing right now isn't good, but try harder. Like, honestly, like, what's one place in your life where you could try a little bit harder? You don't need to try harder everywhere, but where's one place like you could just try a little bit harder? For instance, like typing. We all type on our computers constantly if you have any sort of normal job right now. But you got to a certain level of proficiency in typing, and you didn't get any better. And it's because you stopped trying. You got to a level that you were okay with, and you don't type any faster now. And I guarantee there are people, they have competitions for typewriting now, where people can type 10 times faster than you. It's because they try harder every day to be good at that.
Yeah.
And so that's where there are a lot of places, especially once you become an adult, like where you just get to this level of like, no, I'm good. And you're not going to get any better unless you just try harder. So pick one area and try harder.
Yeah. That's such a simple but not easy advice, man. That's really, really fantastic. And I'm a pecker when I come to typing, though, man. I'm not going to take that one. I've written 6 books and they've all been by pecking, man. I mean, I'll have to pick another area of my life to try harder in.
Well, it's just I like to bring that example up because it makes everyone realize, like, oh wow, I do that every day and I'm not getting any better at it. It's like, yeah, and you don't need to, but there's somewhere that there are a lot of areas like that. You could work out every day, but you're not trying hard as you could. You could get better. You might be pretty good with finances, but there's someone better. You could try harder. Like, there's a lot of areas that you could try harder in, and people just don't realize it.
Yeah. Cold showers, trying harder. Not all or nothing mentality, being able to not compare yourself. We got a lot out of this interview, man. Where can people dial into you, become part of your community, and learn more about you?
Yeah, so we're running 2 websites now, really. So if you want to check out, I talked about my athletes a little bit here. If you want to become one of our athletes or check any of that out, you can go to garagegymathlete.com. Even pick up the book that Dr. Bell mentioned, or you can go to end3fitness.com. That's all spelled out. Either one of those places, you'll learn everything you need to know about what I'm doing and what my team's doing.
And you're number 1 in my book, man. I don't know if that matters, but I think you're number 1, 2, and 3, man.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I really do.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man. It was a really fantastic interview, buddy.
Yeah, lots of fun. Anytime.
Thank you for listening to the Mental Toughness Podcast. If you like what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to our podcast. You can also check us out on Twitter at DRROBBELL or visit